the learnings which I had in the journey of the child screening program, which is unique because of two things. Usually when we have a program like pulse polio or immunization, universal immunization, there is always some part of the world where it has already been tried. But in case of Rbsk, all of you will be very happy to know that it was evolved within the framework, within the boundaries of our country. And hence it is a very innovative program. It can change. If tomorrow one of you have a bright suggestion, I promise you it can change. It is not a rigid program cast in stone because it is our program. It has evolved. But what is the basic philosophy? What is so unique about child health screening? In a way, you may argue that child health screening is there in most parts of the world, sir. But if you try to see the child health screening in other parts of the world and earlier it was also a school health screening program, is the most important thing of Rbsk is it is a program which believes in screening by the generalist, management by the specialist. All of you are doctors, you all have been trained, and where do you find your joy? You find your joy if you can cure someone. If that person comes and says, doctor, because of your treatment, I got saved, in Gujarati language, you will feel very happy, very proud. But if I ask you daily to just screen, you will say, isn't that a wastage of my skills? I have trained myself to treat. So, the first conclusion came that if I have a dentist and if I ask them to screen, what will they screen for? Yes? Can someone say? What do you expect a dentist to screen? Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can someone volunteer to say, what do you expect from a dentist to screen?
Dental care is oral hygiene.
Okay. Now imagine you have your own child and someone comes to your house and says they want to screen your child's dental care, dental health. So you will open the door, you'll ask the child to cooperate, that person will come and examine the teeth. Then he will take your name, your house number, your phone number, and if there is a problem, he'll give you a slip. Please come to the hospital to attend. So as a dentist, I went to someone's house. As a mother, someone had to bring a child, and let's say half an hour was spent. Few hours later, my house is again knocked. That person introduced, I am an optometrist and I want to screen the eye. So I said, fine, please come in, screen my child. So he also took half an hour, took your name, took your address, took your phone number, examined the child, and maybe his vision was okay, so he didn't bother to give you any slip. The next day someone comes, I have come from ID deficiency control program. Right. So I want to see your child for goiter. In this way, each organ of your body, if someone comes to screen, imagine what wastage of time by that person who is screening and also the person who is getting screened. So before Rbsk, the whole ministry had One program for vision, one program for hearing, one program for cognition, one program for thyroid, one program for clubfoot, one program for cleft lip and palate. There's so many vertical programs. Each one would try to capture. So we thought the child is the same. Why send a dentist and optometrist? As it is, we have a population of 1.3 billion. And there's so many, these diseases are so rampant and common. Half of the population of our children have dental caries. So instead of screening, I would require their time in management. So the concept came, can I train one person who can screen from head to toe? And if there is anything positive in the screening, then that child can be referred. And when you screen from head to toe, parents are also happy because you are going to interview them only once. You are going to capture the data only once. And so the first thing which came as in Rbsk is use your paramedics, use your Ayush doctors to screen. Management is to be done by a specialist. I'll give you another example. At AIIMS New Delhi, I was attending a pediatric cardiology OPD. These OPDs run in the afternoon. The professor who is also heading it, Professor Anita Saxena, was sitting inside. And I was talking to her. Outside was a huge crowd. All children referred not only from Delhi but other parts of the country have been referred. So I observed that when a child comes to show Professor Anita Saxena, who is a pediatric cardiologist at AIIMS New Delhi, she would like to see that the form is filled up by a student or resident. And she would put her stetho on the chest, auscultate the heart sounds, see the ECG, and if required, do an echo. So her whole focus on the child was only on the heart. So I asked her, Madam, these children are standing outside for hours together. Can't we train one person while they are standing outside and waiting for getting it shown, that at the same time we screen them from head to toe? She said, but I am a cardiologist. How is that related? He said, imagine if the child also had caries and also had heart disease. And even if you operated on heart disease, the child would still get infected with infective endocarditis. So it is much wiser that there is someone who doesn't waste your time, can screen the child from head to toe while the child is waiting for his turn to be shown to you. So that while you focus on the heart, with a single visit to the hospital, the child has been screened, has been advised for nutrition, has been seen for vision, has been seen for hearing, and maybe this could be a syndromic child who, apart from heart disease, also has other organs. So the second principle was, in Rbsk, you screen holistically. You are not approaching as an organ-specific doctor. You are approaching in a very holistic way from head to toe. Earlier in the school health, we used to have a team which was of optometrist, dentist, then an MBBS doctor, and a speech and hearing person. Now imagine if one of these person is not there, then the teeth of the child that day will not be screened. Or if the vision person is absent, you can't get the vision screening. And when he is screening every day, 365 days, or let's say you take out all the Sundays and the holidays, a majority, the entire year, he is screening on the working days. When does he get the time to treat the child? So your resources are high, the end results are not so good. So came the question that how should we create a teaching manual in which you can teach one person to screen for teeth, to screen for eyes, to screen for hearing. And to continue the story, supposing I get a pediatrician to screen. So this country is very rich. We have large number of pediatricians for the entire child population. As you remember that every year, some 2.5 crore children are born. So let's hope that this country has become extremely resourceable, rich, has the money, has the resources, and we have the pediatricians. That was what was the advice of a lot of people when I was preparing this program. Why don't you prepare pediatricians? So let's hope now one of you is a pediatrician and now he sees the child. Will he see the child's teeth? He will say, I will not screen the teeth. That is the job of a dentist. When I studied my MBBS, teeth was not a part of it. But I am going to comment on nutrition. How can you comment on nutrition if a child has caries teeth? Well, I can't help it. Then it comes to vision. Well, I can't see. I'm not trained for. Even as a pediatrician, there are a lot of organs in the child's body which you are not trained. I will tell you to examine the IQ of the child. No, I'm not a psychologist. Who is a psychologist? A psychologist is a person who has an arts degree, not even a science degree in some places. Where is he getting trained? Oh, he is getting trained outside the medical college. That means those people who are learning child psychology are not a part of the medical college. They are being trained separately. They know the subject theoretically. They have never laid their hands on a child, yet they are becoming child psychiatric specialists. You have a speech pathologist. The Speech and Pathology College of All India Institute is in Mysore, and AIMS, the first AIMS is in Delhi. That means I'm going to learn pediatrics minus getting trained by a person of what to know about speech and language. Though almost 28% of the children have some form of speech problem, including articulation problem, including palate problem, including hearing problem, which may secondary relate to speech. So if I put all the things together, including stammering, etc., it will be approximately 20 to 25% of our children. In all your batchmates, you will find one of the batchmates who is very good at studies, but he also stammers. Why does he stammer? Why there is amblyopia? Because the screening was not done. How did it impact the person? Oh, he could become a doctor, but we know in Sanskrit that a brain is not formed at the time of the birth. A brain is only formed 20% when you are born. Unlike the birth of a calf, where already 80% is formed. So when only 20% is formed, and the brain is going to get formed 80% in the first 3 years, that means almost 90-95% of the brain will get formed. You need repeated screening so that I can assure the parents that this. I have to also tell the parents how to train them so that the brain gets properly formed. Now, if this is a task of a pediatrician, how has he been trained? Was there a chapter in your Nelson's textbook of pediatrics, how to do parenting of a child so that the outcome of the child can be better? Now, all these things, if you see, so the third principle is that this screening, and this should not stop with screening, it should be at zero cost going to the management, and in management it should be holistic. So if you see a child, only 4 Ds can be a problem. What are the 4 diseases? The disease, the deficiency, the defects at birth, and the developmental delay. They cannot be anything outside this. So somebody said, okay, sir, Let us get a trainer to train for diseases. Let us get a trainer to train for deficiencies. Let us get a trainer to train for birth defects. And let us get a trainer for developmental. Why should Dr. Singh teach all the 4Ds? Very perfect. So when the first program and training took place in Pune, and the Rbsk was about to be launched, the people, the government of Maharashtra said, sir, we are very, very ambitious. We have found a teacher not only to teach diseases, but every aspect of disease. So they got a cardiologist to teach for congenital heart disease. They got a orthopedician to teach for for clubfoot. They got a neurologist to teach for neural tube defects. So I was sitting in that class. So the cardiologist came, he taught all about cardiology. He came from Bombay all the way to Pune. So he was slightly angry. He said, well, I'm not supposed to train all of you because I am a trainer of DM students. So that is a very high flowing. And it is very difficult for me to explain you this subject in such a simple language. But anyway, since the government has told me, I am trying to tell you whatever you can understand. So by the end of the day, some 15 people had taught. Just like the way you are taught in your school, your maths teacher teaches you maths, the English teacher teaches you English. But here there is a problem. You can understand maths without understanding English. But in medical science, there is only one human body. All these organs are related. You will have multiple diseases which affects multiple organs. How do I learn? So the student who was sitting next to me, I asked him, what did you understand? He said, sir, सब तो समझ लिया, लेकिन आप बताइए कि कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट ने कार्डियोलॉजी पढ़ा दिया, ऑर्थोपेडिशियन ने ऑर्थोपेडिक्स पढ़ा दिया, मुझे ये सब समझना है, समझ के डाइजेस्ट करना है, और वो जो एक बच्चा आएगा उसमें मुझे सब कुछ देखना है. अगर मैं एज ए स्टूडेंट इतना समझ सकता हूं तो मेरा टीचर क्यों नहीं पूरा समझ लेता है और एक ही आदमी पढ़ा दे? अगर टीचर कह रहे हैं कि उनकी समझ में सारे सब्जेक्ट्स नहीं है, तो हाउ डज ही एक्सपेक्ट द स्टूडेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड स्क्रीन? I wrote to the ministry, please stop the training. And the next day, I told to myself that to train the screener, it should be simple language. It should be such that every organ is related to every organ. So when I am teaching him heart, I am also relating to the brain. When I am teaching him clubfoot, I am also relating to the brain. So this is like a necklace. Training is entirely like a necklace. I cannot consider each of the beads separately because nature has not made it that way. The nature has made it in the entire child, all the organs. So at least we should have a grasp of everything. So that was the third philosophy. So all of you are going to be state level trainers. You have to learn that you don't divide your subjects in this way. Okay, he will teach heart, I will teach pediatrics, somebody will teach orthopedics. No, please don't do so. It doesn't help. It just doesn't help. Imagine your primary school teacher who teach you mathematics also, who teach you English also, who teach you Hindi also. So you never knew what you are learning. It was a combination of so many things, and that's how the brain grasps. Single window. So what is the next line? The next line and the learning of the philosophy was, don't use Latin terms. So as I told you, the next day I knew that I can't borrow and teach from the textbooks. I have to stand here in front of the class and think and give practical examples which are related to my country. So I thought very hard. After thinking I came to a conclusion that one of the most popular books, whether you consider it as a myth or or reality. I'm not going into that debate. But one of the most popular books across this Asian population is Ramayana. When I went to Thailand, the Bangkok airport has the shape of Sagar Manthan. That is a part. So Ramayana and Mahabharata, these are the two most important books which have been read by a lot. But what was happening? Ramayana was written in Sanskrit and nobody could read Sanskrit excepting the Brahmins. So Ramayana was not very popular. So if you had to listen to Ramayana, you had to get a Brahmin, invite him, pay for him, and then he would tell you. You could listen. Whether he is interpreting it rightly or wrongly, no one knew. So there was one person whom I think was very close to Rbsk. I think he was a scientist, he was a writer, he was a game changer. Few people understand. He was Tulsidas. So what this Tulsidas did? He thought, why can't I translate Ramayana, which is written in Sanskrit, Valmiki Ramayana, into a local language which can be understood by everyone? So the Pandits of Varanasi got very angry. He was even beaten. So it is said that he left Varanasi and went to a place in Faizabad, and there with his friend Rahim, he wrote the famous Ramayana in Awadhi language. That was the local language. And today Ramayana has been translated into so many languages. So what does it teach you? If you want screening to be understood, you remove the Latin words. The Latin words are very similar to the Sanskrit. When I teach someone Telepus equino varus, what does he understand? If you open an English dictionary, there is no such word called telepus. There is no such word called equino. There is no such word called varus. So ideally, either all of you have memorized it. Of course, you are not taught Latin to understand the language. So it is not even in English. But if I tell the person that this is club foot and I show the shape of the club, then everyone can pick up. So what do we want for screening? We want that all of you should identify crow. Gujarati crow will be called in a different word. In English, it will be called in a different word. In Bengal, it will be called in a different word. But I would like all of you to understand the crow as a totality. If you can do so, then you have done your job. It is not essential that I know the meaning of Telepus equinovarus. It is not necessary that I learn the word cataract. I learn the word glaucoma. If I can pick it up in a pictorial language, it is good enough for a screener. Why did he try to learn a language when he has to understand science? Science has no boundaries, no language. Why do you want to waste the time trying to learn difficult Latin terms when you have a simple way of learning? So the next thing is, all of you as trainers will have to remember, you have to become the Tulsidas. That is, you have to simplify, take out all the Greek and Latin terms from medical science. Use very simple, use drawings, and in the local way, explain so that he knows what is normal and what is abnormal. Now, before my first slide, I change over. As a doctor, I was always asked to understand the oath of Hippocrates. And all of you must be knowing it. But I don't know how many of you know the oath of Raja Ratnidev, which I think is very important for us as doctors. What does this say? Rajyam na prarthe, swargam na prarthe, mokshmapi na prarthe, kintu dukkha taptanam jivina dukha nash matram ichham, which means I'm not asking for any land, I'm not asking for any heaven, I'm not asking even emancipation, I don't ask for much. All I am asking is, how can I be responsible so that the suffering of the human being can be decreased? I think this is the oath of every physician, of every Rbsk worker. You may not earn a huge amount of money, you may not get a recognition or going to the heaven, but all you can wish is, can you decrease the suffering of the child who ranges from a newborn to that of an adult? So this program could be launched because there was a program called National Health Mission. As you know, the word mission is there, which means that whatever you are doing in the health sector, you need to improve it further in a mission mode. And in this mission mode, this program was launched. It consists of early identification and management of selected health conditions, which are 4 Ds: defect at birth, diseases, deficiency, and developmental delay, including disabilities. If you ask me today, Dr. Singh, what did you learn? Yeah, it was launched in 2013. Today it is 2020. Well, when I started my journey, I thought that all these 4 Ds have to be taught separately. Today, there is no child who has only 1 D. Take the example of birth defect. See a child with cleft lip. He will also have nutritional problem that comes under deficiency. He will also develop otitis media, which comes under diseases. He will also come with developmental problems, including speech problems, which will come under developmental delay. The point is, all these 4 Ds are very much interrelated, and hence you have to make it so easy that all the 4 people, the pharmacist in your team, the nurse in your team, the Ayush male doctor, the Ayush female doctor, all can understand, and you can keep on increasing. So again, this is the selected health condition is not casted in stone. Supposing in Surat, you find that there is a particular defect which is far more prevalent than in Delhi. Why should Delhi decide the selected health condition? So you can say, okay, out of the 40 health conditions which we have selected 60, I will replace this with this. In my Surat, this disease, supposing lead poisoning, is far more common because of these problems. Maybe because of the ship breaking, lot of lead is getting released and that lead is affecting cognition. So I would like to have lead. You have this ability. You can choose, provided you know. So you can also map your entire state, which problem, which disease is in which place. Somewhere you will have a particular defect. So why that defect is more there? Then you can concentrate, focus. So it leads you to more scientific research. Why is that disease more common in that part? Why is it less common in another part of Gujarat? What are they doing? If the IQ of people of coastal Gujarat is better than the other area, then what is their diet? What is their habit which is helping the cognition of the child? But all this can only come when you have a very honest approach and you screen every child born in this country. So the target, what is the target? Initially, we started the target from birth to 18 years. But let me tell you, the journey of Rbsk has been always growing. Actually, the child is not born the day he is born. The child, some of you will understand, is conceived the day the sperm and the ova fuse together to form the zygote. And from that day, the new guest is getting formed, his organs is getting formed. So any effect which will have during the fetal period, you will come to know after the birth, or you may come to know even before if you are doing a good ultrasound. But you can prevent some of this. So actually it is not zero, it is not birth. Now Rbsk goes also during the pregnancy. Then somebody asked me, Dr. Singh, have you seen a newborn smiling as soon as he is born? What does the smile mean? We all know that the newborn smiles later on, meaningful smile comes, social smile comes much later. Then what is this smile? While he is sleeping, he is smiling. All training programs must have a very powerful philosophy, because philosophy is beyond the knowledge. Philosophy guides the knowledge. And what is that guidance? The first oath which you all took, that you want to decrease the sufferings, you want to improve the child. So if you really want to improve the child, you have to also understand why the newborn smiles. Tagore gave an answer. He said, the mother, when she first thought of becoming a mother, in her dreams when she dreamt of a child, there in her mind was born the first smile, and that newborn is smiling. Oh, I was not born the day the sperm and ova got fused. I was born in your thoughts. I was born in your dreams, and I'm smiling to it. I don't know whether medical science will be able to prove or disprove, but at least one thing is true, that when you think of an idea, certain neurotransmitters are released in your brain, and you start getting a feeling of joy or irritation, depending upon what you are thinking. So now we can say that even the 1,000 days, which starts from conception till birth, and from birth, the first 2 years in which 90% of the brain is also a part of Rbsk. And I beg to differ from the Western world that it should not start from conception. It should start from the day of the marriage, or the day the woman thinks that she wants to become a mother, because a lot of neurotransmitters are released. That's another step. But for an Rbsk, the main aim is that no papers are required. You know, in our country, we have something called BPL, below poverty line. So we think that why should a child born into a rich family get government help for free? He can pay, let those who cannot pay. And for this we form some papers. But what is the reality? The reality is that the poorest of the poor will have no papers to show that he can become BP. Because poverty is not only of money, poverty is also of knowledge. And that poverty is far more difficult. So the poorest of the poor, the tribals, you'll find them no papers. So when they come to an hospital and you tell them, please bring in this paper, actually we are inviting more problems, more corruption. And sometimes you will find the BPL certificate being produced by a person who just dropped down from a car. So in Rbsk we say, no papers required. Anyone who is born in this country has the right to get treatment free, whether it is Ambani's child or whether it is the child of that daily wage laborer who has picked up the bricks on her head and is moving from one part of the building to the another to build the skyscraper which decorates your cities. So no papers. We have to make it so easy that accessibility becomes easy. And all the treatment should be so easy that he or she doesn't. But how are we going to treat? The principles of Rbsk is that treatment is not again organ specific. So there's a wonderful paper, all of you can search, that when they did operation for congenital heart disease, the scientists were surprised that though they had done an MRI before and after to show that no brain was affected, and even after the successful heart operation, the child's IQ was much less than the peer group. Why? Why was his IQ less? Then they came up. So you can search for these papers if you are interested. And hence what it came because that the heart beats for the brain. The heart doesn't beat for itself. The heart beats for the brain. And the brain is what is the superior most organ of our body. So when people say that beauty is being fair looking, beauty is being looking tall, I say that applies to animals, not human beings. Because the most beautiful creature on this planet would be a peacock. I think day before yesterday, somebody sent me a photograph of our Prime Minister's feeding a peacock. If you see the photographs of both, the peacock has far more attraction than our politicians because all of us have one color, either we are fair or dark. The peacock has multiple colors. It is going to attract you far. So we are not the most beautiful animal when it comes to the physical beauty. We are not the tallest animal because the giraffe is much taller than us. The giraffe would be 22 feet as compared to our human beings, which range from 5 to 6 feet. We are not the heaviest animals because a newborn is born with 2.5 kilos. And as adults, we'll be weighing somewhere around 50 to 60 kilos. Whereas an elephant would be weighing 60,000 kilos. So what do we have? Rbsk tells you, we as human beings, we understand the brain. The brain is the most beautiful organ. Right now you are listening to me, irrespective that whether you can see me or not, irrespective of whether I have two hands or not, irrespective of what is the color of my skin, because you are listening because you may be enjoying, your brain is enjoying. So it doesn't matter to you, how do I look? What it matters to you is that what I am trying to tell you, is that useful to you? If it is useful, you'll listen to me. If it is not useful, you'll shut your brain. That is what is the principles of Rbsk. It is a very, very difficult thing to understand. No painter, no sculpture can draw the beauty of a human brain. Because that comes when you meet that person. And all of you as doctors, if you believe in the philosophy, that you are here to help the sufferings of the child, decrease the sufferings, then I think you are one of the most beautiful creatures on this planet. So just you have to close your eyes and think how in the Rbsk you can teach to mitigate the sufferings of the newborn. We started our journey with 30 health conditions. Why did we choose them? Because at that point of time, we reviewed the literature. We had two principles in our mind. What is a problem which is treatable, which has a higher magnitude, that means it has a public health, or has been so neglected that we don't think of it. We are said we are a poor country. Friends, I beg to differ from all of you that we are a poor country. We are not poor by money, we are poor by knowledge. We can't prioritize. Our weddings are the costliest weddings of the world. Our donations for the temples, I don't think can be compared with any religious site amount it was. Some of our temples are so rich that can take care of 5 years of health and education of the entire population of this country. But where is the real temple? Where is the real God? Whom do we worship? As doctors, you are closest to the God. Because you are trying to help through Rbsk those children who cannot speak, who cannot communicate, who may be born in a very poor family, yet they have the beauty of leading this country once. They can lead in field of politics, in science, in medical science. If they are encouraged, they have a fire in their belly. I'm reminded today morning, I'm always fascinated to read about Madam Curie. In fact, I had thought of joining all of you very early, but I was so engrossed in reading the life of Madam Curie, though it's not the first time I'm reading, that I really forgot the clock. What is it that attracts me? Here is a girl who was born in Poland. Both her parents were teachers. She was fascinated. She wanted to read, but in Poland, female education, higher education was not possible. They could go to France, but they had no money. She had an elder sister. By this time, her basic schooling had come to an end because there was no girls' school, no girls' college in Poland at that time. Her elder sister wanted to become a doctor. Madame Curie also wanted to study mathematics and physics. But they had no so much. So they decided to do one thing. She sat with her elder sister and said, let us decide in such a way that I will take up a job of a governess. I will not go to any school. And the money which I can save, I will give it to you. You go to France, study medical science and become a doctor. When you have become a doctor, then save money for me so that I can come and study. Believe it, for 6 years she waited with no touch to education. She was just doing the job of an ayah. And the money she was getting, she was sending it to her elder sister. And finally, when her elder sister became a doctor, and she married a Polish doctor and settled in Paris, she called her younger sister. Now it's your turn to study. And she came. For 6 years, there was no schooling. There was no learning. People of her contemporary age already had completed the college. She was already 24. She had not yet completed her school. She didn't know a single line of French. But with determination, she started her journey. Her sister's house was very far off, so she took a small room near her college. She writes in her memoirs, the room used to become so cold and I had no dresses to cover myself that the entire night I couldn't sleep. So I would spend my life studying. And within 2 years, she completed her school. And the next 3 years, she completed her college. I'm yet to see the place where the radium was discovered. When Rutherford, he decided to see that place, he said it is worse than a cowshed. How can one of the biggest discoveries after oxygen be have been done under this cowshed where rains can fall? There was an old table, nothing more. How can a person could have wasted all his energy for tin tons of the bitumen just to take out 1 decigram of radium. Day after day. It's phenomenal. It is just phenomenal. And I know the day they discovered radium, they said, it's our first child. And yet, the only human being who has got 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different subjects in physics and chemistry, whose daughter goes on to become a Nobel laureate, was humiliated like anything before her second Nobel Prize. Her character was assassinated. This was done because of a press who had some grievance. Her husband had died. She was left with 2 children. But how is Rbsk related to Madame Curie? Yes, I was very fascinated. Was it the genes of Madame Curie which allowed her daughter, Irene, to become a Nobel laureate? Or was it the way those children grew that helped that brain, which was 34 centimeters at the time of birth and had become 47 by 1 year? Was it that? Was it the genes? For a long time, people believed in the genes, so they got 2 Nobel laureates, married, but their children never went on to become Nobel. The genes failed. So I was searching, and today morning I got an answer. When her child was born and Pierre was not there to take care, she did a meeting with all the scientists. She said, our children are very young. Why can't we collect all of them and take turns to teach science to these 2 years and 3 years? So each of the scientists, who many of them became a Nobel laureates, would prepare and come and teach these young kids in an exploratory way. And this school was organized by Madame Curie. And what a fascinating way. So before they went actually to the school, the preschool, when their brain, the neurons were getting connected, 500 neurons getting connected every second, trillions of neurons to be connected in the first 3 years of life. Imagine they were indoctrined with the scientific knowledge in such a beautiful way. And Madam writes, I think our education system should change. We should try to teach our children in such a way that they explore science, they love science, rather than they go through a rota memory. So these defects, the neural tube, the Down syndrome, the cleft lip palate, the talipus, the DDH, the congenital cataract, the congenital deafness, the congenital heart disease, and ROP. I was questioned by one neonatologist, how can ROP be a defect at birth? She is a professor of neonatology. I'm just not naming because all of you. It's not a, but I went and tried to understand what's the definition of defect at birth. What's the defect at birth? So you can say defect at birth, birth defect, congenital malformation. The exact definition is very, very useful. It includes structural defects. So any organ which during the process of organogenesis was structurally not formed. Or it was formed, but later on because of some process got damaged and resulted in structural defect. So if my lenses, eye lenses are not clear, they have cataract, that's a structural defect. If my limbs are short, that's a structural defect. If my limbs are twisted, it's a structural defect. So that is also a birth defect. That is one limb of the birth defect. What is the second limb? The second limb of the birth defect is the functional, where we are very much involved. Now you may argue that all structures have functions. Yes, they have. But while the structural defect, you don't require any instrument to find it. you only require your eyes to identify. For functional, you require an instrument, a simple instrument to study. So under functional birth defect came the congenital heart disease, came the vision, came the hearing. And then came those defects which are metabolic. That means the defect lies in the blood. You require a drop of blood to identify. And what's the fourth? The fourth defect is any defect where the developmental of the brain during its stage, either in the mother's womb or later on, gets impacted before it is fully formed. That is also a birth defect. So the birth defect may not manifest at birth. It can manifest later on. It may be related to birth. It can occur before birth, during birth, or just after birth. But it has to be a developing brain. So cerebral palsy is a birth defect. And this is the definition which even CDC now has included. So ROP is very much a part of the defect at birth. What are the childhood diseases? The commonest disease which you will find is the dental caries. In Rbsk, our entire screening has shown 40 to 50% of the babies have dental caries. Now you may ask how dental caries is related to developmental delay, how dental caries is related to defect at birth. Anyone who would like to guess? Are you with me, all of you? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. So there are two very interesting things which came out. During the antenatal period, if the mother has dental caries, then there is a more chance of an IUGR or a preterm birth, which may then lead to a birth defect, because that may lead to cerebral palsy. And after birth, if a child has dental caries, then early childhood caries, ECCE, can actually impact the brain, because it has been found that such a child would not like to speak because you will make fun of his teeth. He will not try to speak, and this because of his pain, etc. His cognition gets impacted. So if you have to attend to dental caries, please attend in children after their dentation has occurred in the first 6 years of life, when their brain are getting formed. Imagine teeth being related to brain, both during the fetal life and beyond. When it comes to deficiencies, anemia is related to cognition. A lot of us think anemia means hemoglobin. Please stop for a while and think, why did nature have hemoglobin? Nature had hemoglobin so that oxygen could be delivered to the cell, because oxygen is required for every cell, and every cell has a mitochondria, and every mitochondria must release with each glucose molecule some 34 ATPs, which will be utilized. Brain requires the maximum ATPs. Now, can you think of an anemia in which hemoglobin is normal? Can you have an anemia in which hemoglobin is normal? So there are two kinds of anemia. The first will be where there is iron deficiency, but the hemoglobins are not. And second would be there is iron deficiencies where hemoglobins have also come. Which is the one which is going to impact the cognition? So when an experiment was done, school-going children, their hemoglobin was studied, their ferritin levels were studied, and their IQ was done. Their urinary iodine was studied, and their thyroid was done. It was found that those children, whose hemoglobin was normal, but their ferritin levels were low, showing that actually they had iron deficiency, but iron deficiency without anemia or without low hemoglobin, they are the ones where the IQ was maximum impact. Similarly, in iodine deficiency, if there is severe iodine deficiency, that will impact the thyroid. That is your T3, T4, and TSH. But if there is mild to moderate deficiency, it will get impacted in the IQ. So when they started studying the urinary iodine concentration of these children, they found a direct correlation with the IQ. But their thyroid levels were normal. So the message which I am trying to make, mild anemia will create an iron deficiency without anemia. But moderate to severe anemia will create iron deficiency with low hemoglobin. Just like mild iodine deficiency will have normal thyroid and moderate to severe will have thyroid. So what is vision? What is hearing? The Sanskrit word is Gyan Indriya. Gyan plus Indriya. Indriya is sensory organs. So how is it the Gyan? Because people understood that this 34 centimeter of brain which we are born with and this 47 centimeter which becomes at the end of 1 year, this gain of 12 centimeter, which is formed because of neuronal connections. But why do these neuronal connections take place? They take place because Gyan Indriya. So the sensory organs are acting as windows to the brain. So when you sing to your child, the child may not understand the meaning of your words, but wires get connected. Synapses takes place. When the child sees, synapses takes place. Whether he can see that object, even he's trying to see, connects the wires. So vision, hearing, and neuromotor impairment actually can impact the IQ of the child. So please remember, all the sensory organs are windows to the brain. So if I have a vision problem, I cannot see, and a newborn cannot see, who should get the priority in this country? The newborn. Why the newborn? Because for a newborn, eyes are not just to see. For the newborn, eyes is to form the brain. आपने जब पहली बार कौवा देखा था और कौवे को आवाज करते हुए सुना, तो ये दोनों चीज आपके दिमाग में एक ही जगह आ गई. यही है वायरिंग. इसी को पियाजेस थ्योरी बोलते हैं, सिंबॉलिक लर्निंग. एक बच्चे को जब आपने कुत्ता दिखाया, he doesn't studies like you that a dog has 4 legs, 1 tail. He sees the image and then he sees the dog barking. So the next time you show this photograph, he will not even call it a dog. He'll call it Bao, because he has identified that voice with that of a dog. Yet he can identify it. He may not know its anatomy. He may not know how many legs the dog has. The next time he saw a horse, what will he tell you? He will tell you, it is a big dog, but this big dog has a different voice. Then you tell, no, it's not a dog, it's a horse. So his brain said, okay, there's a difference between a dog and a horse. The next day you showed him a zebra. So what will he call it? A striped horse. What does that mean? Piaget said that children learn, they build one information, and the next information which comes, they're related to it. So if you have to teach, build a basic information, and the next information is like the floors on that building. And as you build, the knowledge can touch the sky. So this is Piaget, whom Einstein called the most intelligent person ever on this earth when it comes to human science. So all these developmental delays are not delays. They are there to help you to improve the cognition. So what is the difference between a developmental delay and a developmental disability? So 10% of all the newborns born, and a majority which you save in your sick newborn care unit, will have some developmental delay. But all developmental delays are not disabilities. Why? Because your developmental delay is like waiting for a train. So you were waiting at the Ahmedabad railway station or the Vadodara railway station for your friend to come. You came to understand that the train is delayed. So this is, you keep on waiting. When do you stop waiting? If the news comes that the rail has got derailed, then you will not wait anymore. So what is developmental delay? Developmental delay is some delay of that milestone which should have come. Your friend's train should have come at 10 o'clock. It came at 12 o'clock. So that can be passed off as now. And you can try to help to make up that train for the next station. It can speed up. But if the train has got derailed, then it will never be. So then you have to have an active intervention. So when you intervene in developmental delay, and developmental delay is while the train is still running, and the train is your brain. So long your brain is getting formed, we call it a delay. Once the majority of the brain has got formed, then the delay becomes a disability if it has not been treated. Disability you don't treat, you rehabilitate. Developmental delay you treat. So up to the age of 6 years, let us call all developmental problems as developmental delays. Because you can try to mitigate. Supposing a newborn has cataract and you operate on that cataract and he can see. So you have mitigated. You have removed the delay and the train will run at its speed. But the same delay after the age of 6 years, then you can't help it because by this time the brain has got. So amblyopia at later years, you can't treat it even if you know that this is amblyopia because that part of the brain where that eye message would have gone, that part has been allotted to some other work. It is like a hotel room. It doesn't remain empty. If you do not check in time, the hotel manager can allot it to someone else. So this is very, very important that we understand. And hence, under Rbsk, a whole program has been made. A, the third 1,000 days to prevent a problem to come in. And B, if a problem is there, to address it under the early intervention center before the developmental delay can become a disability. And when it becomes a disability, you shouldn't leave it. Then it comes rehabilitation. So there's already a Ministry of Social Justice and Rehabilitation which will work. As health doctors, we should focus more on the developmental delay. Now, why did I say Rbsk is so special? If you go to across the world and you say, how is birth defect getting screened? You'll be find that there is something called screening at birth. There is a data from screening at birth. But all of you know that a lot of these birth defects cannot be picked up at birth. They require another screening. So, how come that you are saying that based on the newborn, how can you decide what is the magnitude of that birth defect? So under Rbsk, we address this. So we said there are going to be multiple screenings for birth defect. And we are going to join them all together. How is that? So when you screen at birth, that is done by the doctor or the nurse where the child was born. Thereafter, when the child goes home, during the home visit, it will be screened by the Asha worker. Those children who became sick at birth and got admitted in your SNCUs, in your NICUs, they are at the highest risk of a defect. They require a much better screening with much different kind of tools which needs to be studied. So they require an indirect ophthalmoscope to study ROP. They require a BERA to study hearing. For rest of children, you can do even OA. So these are the special children which you have to screen. And from 6 weeks to 6 years, you have a team which will go to every Anganwadi worker in the urban area, in the rural area. And in the urban area, you'll have to contact the urban Anganwadi. And the child may not be registered with the Anganwadi. The Anganwadi is just a place, a platform where you are calling all the children less than 6 years and you are going to screen them. So if you get any birth defect, you send them to your DIC, and then any surgery which is required, medical or surgical, can take place. And if you miss in the school, which over the course of time will not happen, then you can also address them at school ages. So with this multiple cares, why is this required? If I only screened at birth, I would be able to pick up only 60 to 70% of the birth. 30% would have got this. But if I would have screened at the age of 6 years, I would have picked up close to 90 to 90. So we have said under Rbsk, all children required to be screened twice a year. Actually, it should slowly become 4 times a year in the first year and subsequently twice a year in the subsequent years till the age of 6 years. If we do this, then not only we will pick up a birth defect and prevent it from becoming a disability, we can treat early so that the brain can get the maximum advantage of that sensory organs. So under this program, you have screening, you have referral. Now you may say, Dr. Singh, in this place, there is no government hospital which can accept this referral. Or even if I accept this referral, this requires a complicated surgical treatment like in case of congenital heart disease. Where is the money? There is no government place which will do it. Or there is a long waiting line. So we have told the governments. We have developed guidelines of how you should interact with the private sector without getting cheated. We're using the country's money safely. So we have formed how to do an MOU. We have made you the guidelines, what kind of money for what defect and how you can assure. And let me tell you today with great degree of pride that there's one state in India which was able to bring down its IMR from 10 to 5. The IMR of 10 was almost there for about a decade or so because they have assured that every child under Rbsk for congenital heart disease can get operated if there is an operation which exists. So you see, it is possible. Even in your Gujarat, a lot of people are getting operated because there is an institute in Ahmedabad. Now there is money. Even if your government sector uses it, you can take this money and you can build your capacity. So it is much easier that you can build your capacity, you can do proper referral, and you can do. And doing this referral, there is one person which is the DIC manager. I would request all of you to ensure that at least every district has one district manager whose phone number is shared so that people know where to go. And if they go there, who is the doctor? So he can communicate with the doctor, he or she can communicate with the doctor and also with the parents and make sure that when they go to the hospital, they go at the right place. A lot of places in this country have been able to assure this. But all I can say, this program is a program of our country, conceived, developing, and what is the role of this DIC? So nowhere in the world, the newborn has been linked with early intervention center. So I ask a simple question to all my students. Why is it so that you save your children? What is neonatology? Is it ventilating a child? Is it just survival. But it is a human child. So we require an intact survival. And for an intact survival, we require instruments for all these sensory organs, which in Sanskrit was the Gyan plus Indriya, Gyanendriya. So in the DIC, we'll confirm, we'll coordinate all children up to 6 years. Beyond 6 years, it will not treat there, it will refer them to adult clinics or pediatric clinics, wherever they are there. But the DIC will have 14 people. Imagine under a pediatrician, under a neonatologist, 14 people are working, including an audiologist, a clinical psychologist, an optometrist, a physiotherapist, a clinical psychologist. I would ask all of you not to miss this opportunity, but to open this. If you are in any doubt, you can see some of the government hospitals which have come, which is excellent. And you'll become so famous that you can't, but don't confuse it with a disability center. DICs are not disability center because disability starts through rehabilitation beyond 6 years. Here we treat for before 6 years. This is the DIC design. And we have to link the follow-up of our newborns from the SNCU and ICU to the DIC. We have to ensure that we are doing the universal screening, including the ROP screening for all newborns. And at DIC, you should assess. This lecture, I was focusing more on vision because vision is the most important sensory organs. It involves a majority of your brain. Vision is not only occipital lobe, vision is parietal lobe, vision is frontal lobe, vision is temporal lobe. So vision, hearing, all these are parts of the brain, they get related. So during the SNCU rounds, your DIC staff should become a part of it, should tell how should we behave in our SNCU so that these sensory organs can be protected. And there are a lot of national collaborative centers which would help you, like the PGIMAT Chandigarh, the RP Center, the LV Prasad Hyderabad, the Shankar Nethralaya, the Arvind Eye Institutes, and so many other institutes can be added. You can also develop the state collaborative centers where such training can be done. Because right now, all your optometrists who are not trained to deal with newborns, are not trained to deal with the vision of an infants. Your audiologists are not trained to deal with small children. Your clinical psychologists are not trained. So we will help and try to develop the centers. So at DIC, the specifications of rooms, the specifications of the instruments are available in the resource manual, the referrals, the screening, all this is there. And this is the names of so many institutes. And this is the manpower which has been given to your DIC, to everyone, pediatrician, medical officer, dentist, physiotherapist, occupational therapist, early interventionist, clinical psychologist, pediatric ophthalmologist, pediatric audiologist and speech, special educator. There is a lab so that you in your OPD can immediately attend to it. A dental technician, because a dental technician and a dental dentist both have been given a manager and a data entry operator. So I would assign to you that please get this registered and you should assess the child for general examination, for motor, for speech and language, receptive language, expressive language, associated abnormalities, cognition, social, emotional, and also the play. These are the people. This is how you need to do. These are the books. When you see with vision, again following the Tulsidas principles, how can we make the eye screening so simple that each one of the persons can identify? So this is screening for vision, which is like the game of 3 circles. So the top line photograph is the skin. So if there can be a hemangioma in the skin, they can be cut in the skin. That is known as, any cut is known as coloboma. So this coloboma is of the eyelid. Then there can be certain marks. Then there can be smaller eye. There can be no eye formation. There can be eye discharge. And then when you look in the eye, the game of 3 circles, the innermost eye, which is black in color. If that black is white, then you call it the cataract. if the outer circle, which in Indian children are mostly brown, if the inner circle and the brown circle both are white, then you say that this is, and if there is tearing, it is glaucoma. If it is not tearing, it is corneal clouding. So, with a simple torch, you can pick up corneal opacity, you can pick up congenital cataract, you can pick up congenital glaucoma, you can pick up a dermoid, you can pick up a coloboma, you can pick up conjunctivitis, you can pick up anophthalmos. A means absent, ophthalmos means eye, again a Latin word. You can pick up all these port wine stains which are related to brain and eye, and coloboma of the eyelid, coloboma of the iris. So all this, and if you have learned how to do a fundoscope, then you can see also the eyelid posterior segment. So all this can be taught. The ROP screening can become a part of your SNCUs and NICUs. All these instruments must be there, and then you have the screening and referral form. So you can have this, all these procedures, guidelines, what is it. So I'll stop here. I think I have tried to give you an overview. I've tried to give you what Rbsk philosophy is. I've asked you what is structural component. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful session. Any questions from participants? Any interaction? Any feedback for the session?
So if you are not interacting, you would understand that either you have not understood or you are not interested.
It is not like that, sir. Everybody are here, and nobody has moved out during your session, and they all were listening to you. It was really interesting session, and we did not realize that this is an online session.
So kind of it.
The way of your presentation and relating everything to the philosophy, and three main principles to be a good trainer, which was very right, and it is very good learning points. Here there is one feedback from our participant, Dr. Jayesh Parmar. He is from Bharuch district. He is senior medical officer at Bharuch.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful addressing us. Your holistic approach, an example about Tulsidas ji, really touched us. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful address to us. We have already undergone this TOT earlier in 2013.
Okay.
But this was the new vision we are getting from you. And we will be pleased to see you personally on tomorrow. And then we will be reacting. Sir, your example about Tulsidas ji is really wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There is one more participant, sir.
Yes.
Kindly introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I'm Dr. Dhartisha. I am in charge SMO district training team Ahmedabad. Actually,
Yes.
what I found most fascinating was just with the help of a simple torch, we can detect so many eye problems. So I would like to learn more about that. Because I think that is a very nice thing that we can teach our participants. For there are so many things. We just want a fundoscope all the time, and just an ophthalmologist is always looking at it. But with a simple touch, so many problems can be detected. So we would learn. I would love to learn more about that.
Sure, sure. Thank you, madam.
Any other person want to talk to sir? Yes, sir.
Before I end, I'm stimulated by, I'm very grateful to all the participants because I always believed that personally when you are there, it means a lot. And it is very difficult for me to talk when I cannot see faces because that's my brain getting stimulation. But when people have talked about Tulsidas, I would take just 2 minutes more of all of yours to understand. So Tulsidas, when he was born, his father's name was Atmaram Dubey. He was a Brahmin. And his mother's name was Hulsi Bai. But a strange thing occurred, which is related to Rbsk. I never knew once I started reading about Tulsidas, I understood. After the birth, the father refused Tulsidas' entry into his house. He said, please allow this child to die because he is not a human being. He is a demon, Rakshasa. And why is it so? Because at that time, the Rbsk training was not there. The defect at birth was not there. So the natal teeth, Tulsidas had a natal teeth. So people forgot that natal teeth could also be normal. The father said that this child is actually a demon, Rakshasa, and if I allow him to be there in my house, he will eat me, I'll die prematurely, my wife will die, and so it is better to kill him. The lady who was delivering was a very poor woman. All of you know, in our country, the midwiferys are not allowed to stay in the heart of the village. They have to stay outside because they are untouchable. So this Dai Chumni Bai, she said, please don't kill this child. I'm very poor, I'm old, but I have delivered this child. I have touched him. How can I allow a human life to die? So, since I don't stay in your village, no harm will come to me, you. Please allow me to take away this child. This child will never enter your village. So she took away Tulsidas. She was old, she was poor, but she was rich in human compassion. Unfortunately, at the age of 4 years, this Chumni Bai also dies. And the father now spreads the rumor that, see, I told you so, he is a demon and he has eaten him. People forgot that Chumni Bai was already very old and poor. So he was again an orphan. Now the mother, because she heard that her child has grown up to 4 years and is now an orphan, she started crying and requested the father to bring the child. But the child was never brought. And the mother also died. Now the father was very sure he is a demon. Now Tulsidas started begging on the roads. An old couple from Kashi had come. When they saw this child and heard the story, they took him. So today you have Tulsidas because our dogmas would have killed the Tulsidas. So all those who talk of Ram Rajya and Ram Temple, and of Ramayana have forgotten. That we, with our scientific weapon, with our Rbsk weapon, will have to fight and allow all the Tulsidas to grow and not to die. We'll have to respect all the Chunni Bais who may be poor, but yet can take care. And let me tell you, the place where this was written, near the river Saryu, and I went there was a school. I was told by the Rbsk people, "Oh sir, your training is very difficult, we can't understand." So I went to a school and took a girl who was very intelligent, but she used to suffer from epilepsy. I took 15 minutes and taught her, "Madam, what you asked me, the eye." And I just taught her, eye is a game of 3 circles. Believe me, I asked her then to draw a picture of eye. I didn't teach her any Latin and Greek words like glaucoma, cataract, coloboma. I then told her, now you go out in the village and bring me 10 children or even 10 adults who are suffering from this. This is a torch. This class 8 girl went around the village. Believe me, she picked up all the correct ones. Then I told the Rbsk team, if a class 8 girl can do it, why can't we? Yes, ma'am. Science is very simple, as was told by the famous Nobel laureate who discovered the radium, Madame Curie, that she wanted even children to be taught by the Nobel laureate, but in such a language, which was their language. And her daughter, when she wrote her piece, she said, it was only during those years that I understood the meaning of science. J.C. Bose, one of the tallest scientists of this country, he was the first member of the Royal College of Science. When he showed a wonderful experiment of a tree, of a plant, that a plant can sense pain. So he tied that plant because 2 years he had studied medical science. He had studied in medical college and he had left. So he tied that plant that was a carrot. And the carrot had very fine strings, just like an operation theater. And then he showed that if carrot has pain, then the light will swing to the right or the left and the magnitude of the pain. And when he chopped the carrot from the tail end, the light moved like a swing. And Bernard Shaw was sitting there. He stood up and said, what did you do? I was a vegetarian and I thought I was non-violent. Today you are telling me that even I do violence. How will I survive? You are a mad person. When he came out, the press asked him, what made you the first Asian to become a member of the Royal College of Science? Remember those days, Newton and people like him used to get the membership. So he said, my father was a district collector. I was born in a place which is now in Bangladesh next to a riverside. My father, instead of sending me to English medium school, sent me to a local school where I had to sit under the tree. On my right side used to sit a Muslim boy whose father was working under my father. And on the left side was a fisherman's son. Both used to tell me stories of water and land. That made me the scientist which I am today. He had studied at Cambridge. He had studied at St. Xavier's. He never told I became a scientist because I studied at these places. I think the answer is all there. In Rbsk, you are developing the J.C. Bose and the Tulsidas of tomorrow. If we can train and screen, we have a huge opportunity of 1.3 billion, because these are not 1.3 billion population whom we consider as a burden. These are 1.3 billion brains, and each brain can lead to a wonderful story, a wonderful knowledge, which can be the torchbearer to the entire world. So thank you very much for listening to me patiently. I think lunch is waiting for all of you. So I stop here, and you can also send me your feedbacks by messaging me. You can borrow my number, and I hope to come tomorrow and meet all of you. So thank you very much once again, and thank you, Dr. Upadhyay and Madam, for arranging this and giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Wonderful session. Dr. Akshay Upadhyay, sir, wants to talk to you.
Sir, before you leave, we want you to be on the second session also post lunch, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we work out, sir. Yes, we work out, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So
So we will move for